STS, Surface Treatment Systems AS, presents the latest development in paint removal from wood. In Norway, we have developed a technique for the removal of old paint which has created quite a stir. The system has been thoroughly tested, and the first projects were completed as early as in 1976. We can refer to a large number of objects which were treated over 10 years ago. During the past few years, there have been further developments, both chemical and technical, and it is a pleasure to show you how this works today. The problem has been greatly actualized the past few years as wood siding has begun to rot under the most modern paints. It is important to follow certain guidelines, both during preparation and during application, in order to end up with a good result. The first important element is testing in several areas to decide which type of chemical should be used. In today's STS program, we have products which also can handle special cases. Here we see how nicely the paint has dissolved. The next important element is the covering of windows, air vents, etc. In most cases, this is done effectively by using strong plastic sheets and a staple gun. The chemical does not harm glass, but the covering keeps water from leaking in during rinsing and protects newly installed windows and doors. Before applying the chemical, it is important to stir the product with a drill to give it the proper viscosity. STS1 is made to be applied either by brush or by spraying. Some find it easier to spray if it is thinned out 5%. This is done with an STS1 thinner. The choice of sprayer is another important part of the process, where the fact that alkaline STS1 attacks aluminum must be considered. Please contact us for more information. The application of STS1 has a large capacity when a spray gun is used. The tests have in advance showed us what amounts are needed and how rapidly the paint dissolves. In some instances, the paint will dissolve too fast and the chemical will slide down the surface. In these cases, a very thin coat of paint remover is applied first, then more is applied when the chemical has dried somewhat and adheres to the surface better after an hour or so. In certain cases, the paint dissolves almost immediately. In these cases, we can deliver a type of STS1 which has a delayed reaction time. During application, the spray pressure is so low that the application is not as even as during regular painting, but for application of chemicals, this is less important. Most important is to apply the chemical with a minimal amount of atomization, that air bubbles are avoided in corners, and that outer edges also are covered with a smooth coat of chemical. When the new surface is checked, areas where too little chemical has been applied appear as lighter areas. Usually, the chemical is allowed to work overnight, so it is ready for rinsing and possibly scraping the next morning. Here is an example where the chemical has slid down the surface. This is corrected using a brush. A scrape test shows us if the dissolution is satisfactory. In this case, scraping of chemical and paint before rinsing was chosen. In certain cases, the rinse time will be reduced when scraping is done first. This will also reduce the amount of moisture sprayed on plants and adjoining surfaces. The scraping can be done very rapidly with a completely dissolved paint film. Plastic sheets are laid on the ground to gather up the scrapings. Roots of plants, bushes, and grass are not damaged by the process. It is standard procedure to protect plants next to the wall to avoid direct contact with non-diluted chemicals. This may cause a discoloring of the plants for part of the season. A hot water pressure washer is preferably used for rinsing. The water temperature should be around 80 degrees centigrade. As we can see, the rinsing can be done with a minimum of pressure and a small spray gun. The rinsing is done from the top down. This low pressure makes for a comfortable working situation. The strain on the woodwork is minimal. Here we see how easy it is to stand on a simple ladder during rinsing. It is our opinion that a professional contractor should use a washer with a volume of 17 to 20 liters of water per minute at 80 degrees centigrade. The chemical can be applied by brush, but this is more time-consuming. And if the paint layer is thick, it may be necessary to apply several coats. The entrance is moved slightly out from the main building during restoration. We will now show you that it is possible to remove paint from large surfaces with a small washer and cold water. The washer cleans all the way into the wood after only one application. Some have even taken the time to remove the paint from an entire house this way. After the paint has been removed, and while the surface is still moist from the rinsing, the surface is neutralized with acetic acid. This neutralization is done on the surface or wall which has been cleaned that day. For those who have a spray gun, the neutralization is done as shown here. A 7.5% mix of acetic acid is sprayed onto the surface. Done properly, this will guaranteed give a neutral and clean wood surface. Neutralization can also be done with a low-pressure sprayer. For use on chairs, benches, etc., neutralization can be done with a brush. Rinsing is not necessary. The small washer has opened up many new possibilities. The dry wood surface has become very attractive, and new treatment will be as on new wood siding. When the wood has not been exposed to UV radiation before its first treatment, the surface is generally perfect. The neutralization can be checked by using phenolphthalein. If the pH level is too high, it will turn a bright red. Now everything is ready for a final surface check. Unwanted wood fibers sticking out from the surface can quickly be removed using sandpaper. All that remains is the paintwork on the best possible surface. A very good investment with beautiful results.